so.
I want you to note, Bruce, that I've finally figured out how to operate this. Remember how I used to have to hand it to
Yeah.
Jim?
You take it home with you and
Yeah.
play with it for hours with it.
Yeah.
Got it working?
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the September 1st meeting of the Hamilton Zoning Board of Appeals. We are in-person board members and applicants only. All other participants may join via Zoom and phone-in. If you want the the Zoom link, it's on the town website. Our agenda this evening, public hearing, 31 Russ Street for a variance application seeking relief from section 4.0 and section 3.2 accessory uses, section 5 non-conforming uses to keep a recently constructed 10 by 12 gazebo on the lot. Applicant is Jessica Kennedy. Continuation of a public hearing at 14 Boston Avenue for a variance application seeking relief from bylaw section 4.0, 3.2, and section 5 of the bylaw. Property at 14 Boston Avenue. Applicant is Shari Fecto. And continuation of a public hearing for the petition submitted by Essex County Habitat for Humanity, 14 Park Street, for a comprehensive permit pursuant to MGL Chapter 40B for the construction of 10 dwellings, 5 duplexes, which would include 4 one-bedroom, 2 two-bedroom, and 4 three-bedroom dwellings. Each dwelling will be sold to households earning 40 to 60% of the area median income. Each will have affordability deed riders, and each will be permanently affordable. Property is located at 434-436 Asbury Street, currently owned by the Philip C. Marcarell Irrevocable Trust 2020. we have some meeting minutes to perhaps approve, and then updates from the chair. So, first item is 31 Russ Street. Is the applicant here?
I'm here.
Okay, please identify yourself, and actually, I think because we are on TV, if you would go to the microphone there, identify yourself, and then tell us what you're looking for.
Okay. I brought some paper. Should I give that to you first, or should I introduce myself?
I think we have a packet, so if it's something additional, but start with identifying yourself, and just for the record.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jessica Kennedy, and I live at 31 Russ Street with I'm a single mother with 2 children, Herman, age 12, and Marina, age 8. I'm a hard-working, full-time employee for the Colgate Companies, a Fortune 500 company. I'm also a Gulf War veteran, 7 years active duty, and I'm 70% disabled. I'm here seeking a variance, and I'm still confused why, and I will go into that in a minute. May I approach and give you
Sure.
just some pictures of what we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. This is a picture of 31 Rouse. I'll wait till I get back. Thank you. Thank you. If you're not familiar with the property, the very first page is a picture of 31 Russ Street. The second page is a side view of the pergola in question, and also a fence line in between 31 Rust and my neighbor exactly to the left at 33. You can also note all the trees and everything above the pergola. The reason why I'm confused, and I wrote that up on the third page, is because I looked through the entire bylaws, and I did not see pergola or gazebo anywhere within the bylaws. When I received the notice from Building Inspector Rich Maloney, very nice man, by the way, he referenced in his letter to me stating how I needed to move a shed. I'm sure you have that document, and it says RE, accessory structure zoning violation. Pleasure to meet you, so on and so forth. This is a letter following up site visit regarding your accessory structure. Your options are to relocate the shed, remove the shed completely, or apply to the zoning board of appeals. The language in the bylaws, first of all, it's considered a pergola, not a gazebo, which after reading through definitions, I figured that out. I was using it the wrong way. A pergola is meant to be an architectural feature or element used in a garden for aesthetic and elevation purposes. It can be covered or not. When I took a look at the definitions in Hamilton zoning bylaw, section 11, the definitions, a building is a structure having a roof or cover forming a shelter for persons. So there's a structure in there. Then I further looked down and I saw structured is a walled and roofed building. This pergola is neither one of those. It's not, well, it is roofed, but there's no sides. And it also says, the further definition on the next page talks about a structure, which means a walled and roofed building, underlined, that is principally above the ground and affixed to a permanent site. It's not affixed. Therefore, reading through all of this, I'm confused. I don't see how this is a building or a shed. It's a garden pergola, which I constructed. I bought a kit from Home Depot. I constructed during COVID. Well, I had somebody do it. It cost me $480. The pergola cost me $1,500. But I did it because, not to aggravate anybody, not to shirk the law. I was a soldier for 7 years. I'm not trying to shirk the law. What I'm trying to do is find a nice space for my children during COVID and beyond. My children are stuck at Zoom for hours at a time or wanting to play video games. We were in lockdown, and I wanted a nice space for them. I'm doing my best as a single mother to create a nice atmosphere for my children. No other reason than that.
Okay.
I'm also trying to work from home as well and would love to have a coffee outside and not be beaten down by the sun. I already have enough sun damage as it is. So my question would be, you know, in the ideal world, I would say that there's no claim over a pergola, and I would ask for this to be dismissed.
Okay, well, I take your point. I did have, and I'm not saying that, you know, I have the definitive word. When I first got the application, I did inquire of the building inspector. You're right, the bylaw doesn't define pergola or gazebo or even ha-ha. But it does, you know, it references structures. And I guess my initial question to the building inspector was, is this a structure that required a building permit? And his answer was that yes, it required a building permit. So so I guess it's a structure, well, you know, and the bylaw, I don't have the wording right in front of me, does define structure.
Yes,
but
well, I put it, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it is defined under section 11 on the third page here and the fourth page.
Okay,
I
so,
just copied and pasted it. Not to be argumentative, I'm just trying to be helpful.
yeah, no, I
I don't-
appreciate that. You know, and I'm kind of parsing on the fly here. You're right, the bylaw said defining structure says section 11. Okay, I think we can assume it's not a building, okay? A structure, well, I guess you could argue it's a structure having a roof or cover and forming a shelter for persons, animals, or property. I mean, it does, you know, I guess it's, you know, how you define shelter, you know, I mean, it does provide shelter. So you could argue it's a building.
But it uses the word structure as a
Okay.
structure, and then we talk about what a
But I
structure
think
is.
it's, the modifier is, and again, is for floodplain management purposes. But for zoning purposes, that's a little different. I'm not trying to be argumentative here, because
I
I'm a little
understand.
at sea myself. But if you know, basically, if the building inspector says that something requires a building permit, that puts it in the purview of the Board of Appeals. You know, if frankly, my initial reaction when I just saw the picture, I said, well, yeah, you probably didn't need a building permit for that, but the building inspector says that you do.
This is the first I'm hearing about that. I was told that under 200 square feet, it was not needed. So I could have
Okay.
done my homework on that and got that too. You got me there.
No, I'm trying, and I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but, I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work here, and you just gave it to us. What I'm gonna suggest is that the board be given an opportunity to review this in relation to, as you probably know, you kind of got crosswise of your neighbors who take a different view of
I
something.
understand, and I'm very sorry about that, but that was never my intention, was to aggravate any of my neighbors. I have letters in there also
Okay.
from neighbors.
So, I'm a little, it's confusing, maybe the bylaw is confusing. I'm a little confused as to whether what applies here. So I'm going to suggest, I mean, we could go around, and I'd be happy to have my colleagues weigh in, but I'm going to suggest that we've been given this, that the board have an opportunity to review what you've submitted, and that we continue the hearing to our next meeting. But do my colleagues have anything to say on?
I'd like to know about the building inspector.
Okay,
I want to know, I just don't want to, he said, she said. I want to know what the building inspector said and then match that up with what the rules are, because if this structure can be lifted and slid or moved, it's not.
It can.
So,
okay. So we're a little bit at sea here, so that's, I think, that would be my suggestion. So if you have anything to add, Bruce?
No, I'd like to look at the state building code and see what
Okay.
if they have any definition of some of these different structures.
Okay.
Go home.
So I think rather than go round and round the mulberry bush more about this, I think we know what we're looking at. We'll continue the hearing to our October meeting, which I don't have a calendar in front of me, but it's the first Wednesday in October.
How's this anchored? Is it?
It's not
It
anchored.
just sits on the ground
Yes.
as it is?
Okay, so do you have the date, David?
the first Wednesday of next month is the 6th.
6th?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to continue this hearing to October 6th.
Thank you, sirs. I appreciate your time.
Do we want to hear what other people have to say, the
Oh.
neighbors? Or
If there, I guess if,
available?
I mean, I think there's been, I mean, I certainly,
I know.
I think there'll be time enough for that, would be my, I mean, we certainly want people to be able to weigh in, but at this point, I think it would make, a more efficient use to review what we have and then take it up again in October. So, okay,
Thank you, sirs. I appreciate your time.
okay. Next, continuation of the public hearing for 14 Boston Avenue. This was a hearing started last month regarding another request for variance, and we did receive today a emailed letter from the applicant requesting that to withdraw the application without prejudice. It's been the board's custom when it's been telegraphed to applicants that they're likely to not get the relief they're requesting, that rather than have us deny it, in which case they can't, refile essentially the same thing for 2 years. We've generally allowed them to withdraw without prejudice, so if we go away and people more sympathetic sitting in our seats, they could come back earlier. So we did receive a letter asking to withdraw, so I would entertain a motion to allow the applicant to withdraw the application without prejudice. Someone want to make that motion?
Yeah, motion to withdraw.
Second.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
And I would suggest, since you weren't here, I mean, this is one of the few things that I think you can just abstain, so when we vote.
Okay.
Okay. So, all those in favor, any further discussion? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and note for the record that David Parentchief abstains from voting. Okay, on to the application of Habitat for Humanity for the property at 436 Asbury Street. For application for a comprehensive permit. What I would like to achieve tonight, or what the way I see it, is that we've had the application's been reviewed by our peer reviewer, Robert Puff, and it's been reviewed and discussed between the applicant and our conservation commissioner. I'd like to see if we can come to closure on those, and then work our way through tentatively the list of requests for waiver. And that probably, if we get through that tonight, that'd probably be a good thing. I have discussed with our special legal counsel, then he and his office would prepare a draft decision, and we could take that up at our October meeting and perhaps vote, but no guarantees. But that's what I see. So if you want to have something else you want to kick it off with, but otherwise I'd say let's go to discussing where things stand with the peer reviewer, who is on the line, or how are we, is he?
I don't think he's on yet.
Okay, but
I'm happy to do one quick update first. On the agenda, it says the property is owned by the estate of Philip Mackerel. It is now owned by Essex County Habitat for Humanity. So that
Okay.
is progress in that front there.
okay, we'll
Yeah.
note that for the record.
How do you want to proceed through this? Do you want Will to talk through, or do you want?
Well, while we're perhaps, we've had correspondence that I've seen that between Will and Mr. Puff, and perhaps you can, while we're trying to get Mr. Puff on, you can summarize where things stand, what, if any, differences there are outstanding between the two of you.
Yep, so my name is Will Scooter from the Moore and Cameron Group. So just to kind of recap, it's been a couple months since we've been here, but there was a couple changes to the plans, and the major change was changing the 18-foot wide access drive to a 22-foot wide access aisle based on the fire chief's comments. So we took that into account and were able to get those plans revised and over to Robert Puff for his review, and then we actually continued the next meeting. So more or less, that was the major change, and it kind of also had some drainage impacts. So we worked through all the drainage, kind of went back and forth a couple times, and I actually spoke to Robert Puff today. There's a few small little changes that we're gonna kind of revise the plans one last time, hopefully is the last iteration of plan revisions. And like I said, they're very minor, just details and a couple little cleanup items. But otherwise, everything per our discussion, I think he was satisfied with. So hopefully he'll come and speak. I believe he said he was gonna talk tonight. We also met with the Conservation Administrator, Brian Colleran, today at the site. and kind of went through some of the items that he's brought up in his 2 letters that he put together. I think we have a little bit of a difference of opinion on when the lot was created and the setbacks that are implicated with that. So regardless, we would like to request one additional waiver, and I think I noted that in the letter a couple weeks ago, and that's the 25-foot no disturb will be applied rather than the 50-foot. And that's based on when the lots were created and a building was occupied in the lots. And because there was an A&R plan done, he's under the assumption that there's 2 different lots, and one of the lots doesn't have an existing dwelling, so therefore the 50-foot no disturb would apply. Whereas we kind of see it as the lots were created with an A&R, however, they were never sold, deeded out, and there's no legal lot created at that point. Although there is an A&R plan on file, and there's a record plan, there was actually no transfer of title of the lots. So part of the project is recombining these lots into an existing lot. So if he's still at that point, we would just request the waiver from the 50-foot no disturb back down to the 25-foot no disturb, which is allowed for houses or structures prior to December 31st, 2007. So we had a pretty good meeting, I think, on site, and kind of went over the design and how we kind of did look at different options, and kind of the best route that we took was working in the 25-foot rather than disturbing kind of additional buffer zone as well as upland area. So I kind of put a sketch together and we talked through it, and I think we hopefully came to an agreement on why the design we chose was kind of a better design than the alternative analysis of staying out of the 25-foot, disturbing more, not only resource area, but good forested upland. Because this is a cluster development, that was kind of the intent. We also talked about some different drainage structures and ideas and best management practices that he was recommending, and we kind of went through why those don't really apply, or they're not applicable or feasible for this site in general. So that's kind of where we are, and I think Brian also mentioned that he would be talking today to the board. I don't know if he's on Zoom or not.
Yeah, I understand that he'll be available. So
Yep.
going back to the, to Mr. Puff, the most recent, well, we have a letter that I'm sure you've seen from him dated August 31st. That stating he's continued a drainage and stormwater management review. And he has a few comments and outstanding, I'll use the word differences of opinion on this. So you've indicated you've subsequently spoken to him. So can you
Correct, yeah.
tell us how it's been narrowed down from
Yep.
his August 31st letter?
And that would be, part of, obviously, we'll have to revise the plans one last time, but I think he was on board with conditioning approval based on the revisions. So just to kind of summarize the revisions that they will include is he wants a pavement cross-section, and we've already discussed kind of how they're put together. We're gonna modify the outlet wear detail. I think that was noted in his letter. One of the letter also has calculations that we provided him today, and he said that they were okay.
Just one second. Can you just confirm that he can hear us?
Bob, can you hear us? You're on mute.
My lip reading's a little weak.
Bob, can you hear us? Yeah, he had told me he had some technical issues a second ago when I called. All right, well, why don't you go ahead, Will?
Yep, so like I said, I think the last thing, so the outlet wear detail, there's just a minor modification that I talked to Bob about that we will revise on the plans. Also, we provided him calculations for the catch basin, and we're gonna change one of the rims to a double rim, so not a big change, it's just kind of clean up on the plans, change one of the drain or catch basin manholes to a 5-foot manhole to allow that, and then add a couple spot grades to the plan. And the last thing was just updating the long-term pollution prevention plan with just a couple small little details in there that he was looking for.
Okay, so from your perspective, and I was hoping he could hear, but we can confirm with him.
Yeah, with
You're
these-
on the same page in
Exactly.
terms of what he's looking for you to do additionally in this letter, you're
Yeah.
prepared to do and revise the plan to,
Yep, so the idea hopefully is just one last revision to incorporate these small changes, and he agreed. I don't think they're major concerns of getting them added to the plan. It's just, we just want to do it one last time and then get this thing buttoned up.
okay. Any questions about this aspect of it from my colleagues?
Nope.
You're the closest thing we have to an engineer. So,
I'm not an engineer.
no, but, you know, you can understand engineering,
I understand it, yeah.
engineer. Okay, so I guess we will, as I say, we will confirm with Mr. Puff that you are in fact on the same page, but I guess for purposes of a decision, I think we can probably, you know, tentatively agree that, you know, the plan with respect to the stormwater and drainage issues, that the plan as revised to date and with further agreed upon revisions will be the final plan and will be what the board would sign off on in the comprehensive permit. So, and is, so I think that takes care of the peer review part of it.
Right.
Is Brian Colleran gonna be available or to,
Yeah, I thought he was, but he's not on yet.
okay, I think it would be, you know, this is, I think it would be helpful perhaps if you could show on the plan this difference of opinion on,
So, you can kind of see, so on the plan right here is a 25-foot no disturb. That's if you have a lot created after 2007, or before 2007. After 2007, that line moves up to this 50-foot. So it depends on when the lot was created and occupied with the building is kind of how their regulations are written. So we kind of went with the assumption during the design, you know, we wanted to keep the impact as small as possible, so like a cluster development, and then try to keep everything to the front of the lot rather than spreading it to the back, leave it forested the way it was. And we kind of ran with the assumption that the lot, although was an A&R, it's still under the same ownership at the 25-foot no disturb. So we weren't requesting a waiver at first, but I think Brian's opinion is that because there was an A&R done, that the lot is now created after 2007. Even though they'll be combined again, we're just gonna extinguish the lot line. So there would be an existing structure back on the single lot. So in order to do that, we're just gonna request a waiver. Because I have this other plan that I've kind of just put together, and this is what we talked about with Brian. I didn't run the engineering calculations, so these are rough estimates, but you can see this orange is, if we kept the work outside of the 50-foot with a no disturb, it would make the drainage pond kind of have to come all the way to the back. So not only are we disturbing within the 50 to 100-foot buffer zones, we'd also have to clear due to grading requirements all the way up to basically where the cell tower is. So it's about another half an acre roughly. It could probably go up slightly depending on the drainage calcs, but about another half acre of additional clearing would have to take place to stay outside of that 25-foot. And, you know, the other thing, it is allowed in their regulations, they do allow it. It's not, they have a 50-foot no disturb permanent. They do allow it if the lot's created before 2007, so. We did also keep the buildings. They have a 75-foot or a 50-foot and a 75-foot no build, depending on when the lots were created. We kept the buildings as far away as possible. So even if the 50-foot and the 75-foot applied to this project, the buildings would still comply. So the only waiver we're requesting is work within that 25-foot or up to the 25-foot. And again, this all complies to the state regulations, so. We tried the best. We thought we were doing the right thing, complying to all the regs. However, there's discrepancies on how, I guess it's defined. But we would request a waiver just basically to reduce the alteration and impact we would have not only on the resource areas, but also on the upland areas.
So you've got sounds like you've got a difference of opinion to some extent on, I guess, say what rule applies, what regulation applies. Okay, so you're asking for the waiver.
Yep, yeah, initially we thought we were all compliant, so we did not need to request
Okay.
it, but
So
it would be.
where does, if you know, where does Brian Colleran stand on, does he think we should give the waiver or, you know, or that?
I don't want to speak for him, yeah.
I can answer that. I did speak at length with Brian this afternoon. He said yeah, he felt like the plans met the state requirements. He felt like there were differences of opinion in a number of areas that in the site visit you folks talked through. You know, you discussed different approaches in how to deal with on-site drainage, retention, facilities, and their design, construct, dimension, and et cetera. You know, like I say, he felt like there were things that he would have done different had he had the opportunity to be part of the design process earlier on, but that wasn't, you know, possible given, you know, the timing of things and his coming here just a couple of months ago. So in any event, the upshot is that he felt like it did meet the state requirements.
Yep.
Okay.
And, you know, one of the other things that we were discussing, and I agree with him, is that there's stormwater management regulations that are through the state that you need to apply to any project, and then there's ecological design, which obviously has differences on how things should be. So I understand a lot of his things, they make complete sense. However, following state regulations for stormwater design, some of the ideas that he has can't really be applied for engineering aspects of stormwater.
Okay. So, Patrick, can you make sure that we get you know, we've got Will's response, you know, sort of summary of the meeting of where things are, that we get a summary from Brian?
Right, will do.
You know, so,
And I did send Brian, it was a little late, about 4:30, I think, or 5:30, I was able to get an email. I wasn't able to get a letter out today since the site.
yeah, that's this.
I've shared that with the
Yeah.
members.
Yeah, so I did kind of summarize what we discussed on site a little bit,
Okay.
so.
Any questions or comments at this point from my colleagues? Okay. Okay, then let's look at the list of requested waivers, and start get some comments or input regarding those. So, does everybody have it's a requested waiver list. It was part of the, I guess, the initial, sort of the cover application. Give everybody a minute to get a hold of them.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, the waivers are kind of on a spreadsheet kind of looking thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the technical report, so.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've got an extra copy if somebody is having trouble putting their,
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in my packet.
so.
I'll go make some copies, Bill.
That'd probably be the easiest thing. Let's see. Bear with us. Remember the paperless office?
When's it coming?
Yeah.
You show us all iPads.
And yeah, so just to reiterate, I think the only waiver request that we're gonna have additional to this list is gonna be that 25-foot applicable,
Yeah.
no disturb.
Patrick's making some
Yeah.
copies, so then
Pick it up,
we'll know,
Some trouble.
back into the.
everybody will know that we're working on this off the same.
Got it.
Okay,
I knew I had it.
okay.
And with the,
Don't tell Patrick when he comes back
Yeah.
in.
of the application.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Caroline.
Very good.
Well, thank you for making this nice and easy.
Okay, so the applicant had a number of requests for waivers. First section is waivers of the Hamilton zoning bylaw. First one, section 3.0, which in the table of use regulations says that two or more in a residential area, two or more dwelling units, second floor and above, when part of a mixed-use building or development, not permitted in an R1B zoning district, which this property is in, asking for a waiver since they are proposing 5 two-family dwelling units. So, that's, if anybody has any questions or comments about it, but that's one of the waivers they're asking for. So I guess we can, you know, we're not gonna take formal votes at this point, but, you know, I think that's probably, I'm certainly comfortable with granting that waiver, so I guess we can tentatively give that a yay. Next, section 4.0, dimensional and density regulations, again, from the table. Minimum lot area in the R1B zoning district is 40,000 square feet. There will be, with the 10 units and the size of the building, 20,749 square feet per unit. And it's a cluster development, but in the entire picture, that's how much of the site would be applicable to each unit. So that's kind of one of the underpinnings of 40B, and certainly within guidelines. So unless I hear anything else, I think we can assume we will allow that. Section 6.0, driveways, standards. The bylaw calls for a centerline radius of at least 60 feet in driveway curves with a maximum grade of 10%. Now this is looking for a waiver, minimum centerline radius of 34 feet with a maximum grade of 11.5%. Now, have those numbers changed based on your conversations with the fire department?
Nope, so what we did was prepared a turn-in analysis, swept path analysis for the fire chief, so I think he was okay with the design. They're able to get their apparatus through it.
Okay. So we would likely be prepared to grant that waiver. Next one is section 7.0, special regulations. Section 7.2 of the cell tower bylaw requires a distance from all existing structures shall be at least 200 feet excluding existing structures. They're seeking a proposed waiver to 125-foot setback from the proposed structure. My only comment about this was when we did the site walk, there seems to be no one seemed to know exactly what the height of the cell tower is. I'd like to confirm the height of the cell tower, the actual height.
It's 109 feet.
Okay, so 125-foot setback would still give, if it fell down,
Right. The fall zone.
the fall zone. So, okay, I just wouldn't want to find out that it was 125 feet and the tower was 135 feet, so 109 feet. So, I think I'll assume here, as I'm going along, unless I hear an objection from my colleagues, I'll just assume that
The only question I have on the cell tower is, how it's gonna be secured and what the aesthetic of that tower being fenced off is gonna look like. So it matches with the decor of everything that's going on, not just barbed wire and fence.
Yep, so it already is fully enclosed with chain link fence. I think it's 8-foot high chain link fence, so it's fully enclosed. I think the only thing outside is the transformer. So the generator and all the other structures for the cell tower are already
Okay.
built.
Next, section 9.0, groundwater protection overlay district. Generally, any use that will render impervious more than 15%, or I think is it 1,500 square feet of the proposed development. 25, okay, 2,500. And how much will the impervious surface be?
I know it's part of those supplemental calculations as well.
Are you talking about the parking, driveway coverage?
Yeah, so.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't sum them up, but we had 8,304 square feet for the buildings, 4,050 for the parking, and then the access drive, and the parking and access drive coverage were 8,830, and then 12,880.
4, 6.
And that's only within the lot, so we did not include the access driveway coming down the existing right-of-way. And now that I think of it, these do not reflect the access drive's expansion width, so I can get those numbers, total
Okay.
impervious.
Okay, so it's not too much greater than the 15%, but it is quite a bit more than the 2,500 square feet. But, I guess I would say that this was something that Brian Colleran would have flagged, I suspect, if
Probably.
so. Could you just, just confirm that he's not, shocked and outraged by this figure?
Sure.
I think, assuming he's not, I'd be prepared to, I think we'd be prepared to grant the waiver. Okay, next, section 10.0, site plan review. Normally, this is a project that would be subject to site plan review, but by its definition, it's a comprehensive permit. We're essentially doing the site plan review, so. So I think we're okay with that. And okay, just to go back to the groundwater protection overlay district thing, the way the bylaw is, I'm assuming you're accurately quoting or referencing the bylaw, proposed development will render more than 2,500 square feet or 1,500 or 15%, whichever is greater, so that makes me feel a little better, because your numbers are not significantly larger than the 15%. It's about 16, maybe 17%. Okay. Next are the Concom regulations, but I'd like to skip over those and just come back to them and deal with, first we have the stormwater management. Town of Hamilton Stormwater Management Permit Rules and Regulations. Section 4.B, Permit Procedures. Independent stormwater requirement is there an independent stormwater management permit application asking that be waived, be governed by the comprehensive site plan decision, which under 40B, we basically have the power to deal with all of these issues, and I think I'd be fine with that. And we've had the project, reviewed by our independent Mr. Puff, so I'd give that a yes. Comprehensive permit rules of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Section 2.01A, required materials, proposed lighting and photometric analysis. The rules require photometric analysis, asking for a waiver since the only proposed lighting to be will be building mounted lights, so there's not going to be any other, no driveway lights or anything. And just, we can call it the John Rodenheiser Memorial Rule, that all lighting will be dark sky compliant
Time immemorial.
under penalty of death. No, it's a good thing. So that's a yes. Comprehensive permit regulations environmental impact analysis not provided. I guess the rules require an environmental impact analysis, so we can waive it. I'm okay with that. I mean, I think we've got it covered under our peer reviewer and our Concom, so I'd be okay with that. Hearing no yelps, I'll assume that my colleagues agree with me. Next, again, under our rules, calls for a traffic impact report, asking for a waiver. I think, you know, we're not talking about a, you know, really large-scale project, so I'd be okay with no traffic impact report. So that brings us back to the Concom waivers. So general provisions are required. A mitigation plan, which may include but not limited to planting of native landscaping or wildflower meadows in preference to lawns, and removal or control of invasive species. They're asking for a waiver of that. No mitigation plan to be provided, cleared areas to be loamed and seeded. Now, I do recall seeing in some of the correspondence that Mr. Colleran wasn't a big fan of loaming and seeding. Can you address that?
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of it, it's not loam and seed to create lawn area. So a large section of loam and seed is gonna be over the septic, so you can't really plant trees or anything. And
Okay.
then where the stormwater basins are gonna be, we actually proposed a conservation seed mix on the sides and a bio or retention area mix on the bottom of the basin. So it's not a typical Kentucky bluegrass lawn that we're creating out here. There will be some lawn areas, but again, most of it is gonna be septic areas or stormwater areas. And then kind of filling in between that will be probably maintained lawn, but nothing excessive. We're not clearing to create lawn, it's more of creating to put utilities in or stormwater management.
Okay. And with that explanation, he was okay with this? Or,
I think he was.
okay.
Yeah,
Sure,
we
he'll
didn't,
let you know if
yeah, we
if
didn't
he's
really
not, but-
discuss that too much today. I mean, it was
Okay.
more of just the project in general.
It's not like the houses are gonna have a big,
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
clear cutting.
Yeah, you look at the design, and
Yeah.
that's, it's not set up for acres of lawn for anybody to mow.
like
Right.
rough terrain.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'm okay with that. So.
Yeah, I have no problem with it either.
General provisions, considerations of alternatives. Under the town's bylaw, we may require the applicant to demonstrate that the land, you know, an alternative analysis. That's, I'm fine with waiving that. That's the old hit 'em where they ain't. Nothing's ever perfect. So. Plans, the town bylaw, requirement for larger projects, which, is, I don't know how that's defined, but, all trees exceeding 6 inches diameter at a height of 4.5 feet above the ground within the aura shall be shown individually on the plan, including stem location and the line of maximum extent of crown coverage. Trees to be removed must be clearly marked on the plan and flagged in the field. And you're asking for a waiver. They just have the existing and proposed tree line depicted on plans. So could you just briefly explain what, so you're not planting trees?
Correct, so that regulation basically says that if you have any tree at 6 inches breast height, then you would need to locate it. So because you've been to the site, majority of the front of the property is actually cleared and it's mostly maintained lawn with a couple trees. We did locate the major trees that are kind of individually, and then everything else is forested and it's pretty mature forest, so we would be locating hundreds of trees. So instead, what we did is just did a tree line, so existing tree line, proposed tree line. And that's kind of, you look at this plan, you can kind of see the different greens of this is all gonna be cleared with no trees and this is gonna remain. So the tree line used to come down something like this. We're basically clearing this area. And I know
Works.
Brian did mention that he was okay with that.
Works for me.
Yep.
Next, calls for a wildlife habitat study, and they're asking for a waiver of that. I'm fine with that. So. And then, you said the one additional one,
Yep, that's
Just-
section 3.2 is where that's called out. And it's the 50-foot no disturb, so we would ask for a waiver from the 50-foot no disturb and comply with the 25-foot no disturb.
okay. Questions from my colleagues? I'm fine with it. Okay. So that takes, geez, just a couple of caveats, that takes care of the waivers. So I guess we've been very open-handed and are apt to grant them all. Are we on Zoom, or I guess this might be a point to get input, or is Brian calling, is he there, or is that, I see his name, but is
Yeah.
that just?
Brian, are you now? Are you available now, Brian? Yeah, there he is.
And no comments or anything from the Zoom channel? Anybody ask anything?
Yeah,
No.
anybody out in the public?
Yeah, gotta make sure.
No one else?
Is he,
Brian, can you hear us? We don't hear you.
Does that,
Yeah,
does
no,
HDMI hook into the sound system here? Is that running into the,
Yeah.
so, is that on?
Is there a way to test that?
Can you speak?
or use the Zoom chat with him and see if he can type back to you maybe.
I can see your lips, but I can't hear your sound.
Could we call in just from a cell phone to the Zoom call so that we can pick up his audio that way and put it in front of one of the microphones? Better than my lip reading skills. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, I'm not able to get anything from anybody.
I just installed it. I wanna see if I can get on, and then maybe we can get around it.
I have Zoom installed on my phone if you want me to just click in. I don't mind doing that, but I don't want to.
It might work. We'll see if it goes through from here, then we'll know if it's this. So I just tried to join. All right, I can hear people. So who are we trying to talk to?
Lisa Lamparelli.
There's Lisa. All right, there's Lisa. All right, so you want to try and say something? I'll let you talk since you can hear her.
Can you hear us, Lisa?
Yes, I heard you now, yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of feedback, but we can hear you.
So were there any comments that you had on the Habitat for Humanity project? Wow, that's awful.
David, if you mute yours
Yeah.
going in, that might reduce.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute this mic.
Yes, I have you now.
Yeah, mine is muted, so it's feeding through both. Technology's great.
She typing or?
Yeah, she's typing.
Okay.
Did she type it out?
She's here for 31 Russ Street,
Oh,
so.
Oh, goodness.
All right.
So they're aware now that that was continued.
okay. And I guess we can't get Brian, so I guess you can just, we've tentatively approved the waivers and, you know, if he has something to say, he can
Yeah.
tell us at the next meeting, so.
Can he just come to the meeting?
That would probably be the best thing.
That would be the thing to do.
Yeah, so, is there anybody on there that, if there's anybody on there that has some question or comment about the Habitat for Humanity project, now would be the time to get it out.
All right, send that to everybody online. At least that way they won't be sending it to individuals.
No. So. guess, okay, I guess not. Well, I think we accomplished what I had kind of hoped that we would accomplish tonight, essentially. Is there any, does my colleagues have any questions or comments about the project in general, any other aspects of it?
Yeah, I don't, I think
Oh.
it's gonna be well-designed for the site, good use for the site.
Okay. So, subject to confirming a couple of things, I think we're, you know, where we think we ought to be. So, there will be a draft decision that hopefully we'll get before the October meeting so that we can look at it, but then we can review it at the October meeting, make any changes if we want to, and then if it seems to be in order, there's no reason we can't vote at the October meeting, but no guarantees, so. Anything else? Then, if not, the hearing on 434, 436 Asbury Street is continued to October 6, 2021. So just on our agenda, we do have last month's minutes. I think I circulated them. The only change, I think, from the printed ones that we have,
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
it's Andy Phillip was the applicant, not Eddie. But with that change, I think the minutes are ready to be approved. Again, you weren't at the meeting, David, so I think I would entertain, you can abstain, but I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September meeting.
I approve those meetings.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Note that David Parentchief abstained since he was not at the meeting. Reports from the chair. I am happy to report that Andy Phillip is going to be joining the board as an alternate. She will be appointed by the selectmen on September 7th, so we'll have some backup. I told at some point, I mean, it doesn't matter, I did tell the selectmen that you should now be appointed a regular member, but with all the rights and privileges that entails. To
Monetary
it, none. And I'm trolling for, trying to reel in another alternate, then we'd have a full board. So, there you have it. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You can.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you. What would you like your decision?